In a house full of secrets, someone is always watching. And this time, the housemaid knows everything. Introduction. A new beginning with old shadows. 13 years have passed since Millie's days as a housemaid, and she has worked hard to rebuild her life. Now a social worker, she is married to Enzo, a kind-hearted landscaper, and together they have 2 children, 11-year-old Ada and 9-year-old Nico. The family moves into a quiet, upscale suburban neighborhood, hoping for a fresh start. Their new home is surrounded by only a few other houses, including those of their closest neighbors, the Lowells and an older woman named Janice. Almost immediately, Millie senses something unsettling about the neighborhood, particularly Suzette Lowell. A glamorous and flirtatious woman, Suzette is married to the much older Jonathan Lowell, an intimidating and wealthy man. While Millie wants to believe they're just another upper-class couple, something about them, especially Suzette's interactions with Enzo, raises red flags. Tensions rise. Secrets in the neighborhood. Millie becomes increasingly uncomfortable when Suzette frequently calls on Enzo for small favors around the house. The requests start innocently enough, helping with the backyard, fixing a few things, but soon, it becomes clear that Suzette enjoys his presence a little too much. Her compliments, playful touches, and lingering gazes make Millie uneasy. Enzo, always eager to be helpful, doesn't seem to notice Suzette's true intentions. In an attempt to ease Millie's stress at home, Enzo suggests hiring help. Enter Martha, Suzette's housemaid, whom Enzo hires to assist Millie with daily chores. But instead of making life easier, Martha adds another layer of tension. She is distant, watchful, and seems to know more than she lets on. When Millie notices money and small valuables missing from their home, she confronts Martha, only to receive a chilling response. Martha smirks and reminds Millie that she knows about her past, hinting that she can ruin everything if Millie makes trouble for her. Millie, once a housemaid herself, knows what it's like to be desperate, but something about Martha's demeanor sets off alarm bells. Nico's change in behavior and a disturbing discovery. While Millie is distracted by Suzette and Martha, she notices a troubling shift in her son Nico. He has become unusually quiet, distant, and withdrawn. She learns that as punishment for breaking the Lowells' window, Suzette had invited him to their house to help with chores. But ever since he began spending time there, he has been acting differently. One night, Millie hears Nico crying in his room. When she presses him for answers, he hesitates but finally confesses that Jonathan Lowell has been behaving strangely toward him. He describes moments when Jonathan made him feel uncomfortable, touching him in ways that weren't outright abusive but were enough to make Nico afraid. Millie is horrified. She has spent years protecting vulnerable children in her job as a social worker. She never imagined she'd have to protect her own son from a monster hiding in plain sight. Murder in the neighborhood. Who killed Jonathan Lowell? Just when Millie is debating how to handle the situation, the unimaginable happens. Jonathan Lowell is found dead in his home, his throat slit. The peaceful suburb is thrown into chaos as the police begin investigating. The biggest shock? Enzo becomes the prime suspect. Evidence mounts against him when the police find his missing knife at the crime scene, and their bank account shows a sudden withdrawal of a large sum of money. It doesn't help that Suzette, seemingly grief-stricken, claims that Enzo had been acting suspiciously around her husband. Millie knows her husband is innocent. But how did his knife end up at the crime scene? And what about the money? When Millie confronts Enzo, he reveals that he withdrew the money to help Martha escape her abusive husband. It's a noble act, but it doesn't explain everything. Desperate to clear Enzo's name, Millie digs deeper, and the truth is more horrifying than she expected. The real killer. A mother's worst nightmare. The pieces start falling into place when Millie notices how anxious Ada, her usually confident daughter, has been. One night, Ada breaks down and confesses she stabbed Jonathan Lowell. After learning what Jonathan had been doing to Nico, Ada confronted him. When Jonathan tried to trap her in a room, Ada panicked and stabbed him in self-defense. But her stab wound wasn't what killed him. Someone else had finished the job. Martha. Martha had been waiting in the shadows, and after Ada ran out, she made sure Jonathan would never hurt another child again. A risky plan. Framing Suzette. Millie is faced with an impossible choice: turn in her daughter and risk destroying her family, or find another way to protect her. With the help of a detective, Ramirez, who secretly despises the Lowells, she comes up with a bold plan: frame Suzette for the murder. Millie approaches Suzette with an ultimatum: either take the blame or let everyone know that she had turned a blind eye to Jonathan's actions for years. Knowing the scandal would destroy her, Suzette reluctantly agrees. The police discover evidence linking her to the crime, and she is arrested, allowing Millie and her family to escape suspicion. Conclusion: moving on, but never forgetting with Jonathan dead and Suzette out of the picture, Millie and her family are free from the nightmare. They move again, leaving behind the dark memories of that neighborhood. But Millie knows she will never be the same. She has spent her life protecting others, first as a housemaid, then as a social worker. This time, she protected her own family. But the cost of that protection will always linger in the back of her mind. She can only hope that Ada, Nico, and Enzo never have to see the darkness she has seen. Because even in the safest looking houses, you never know who is watching. This summary captures the major plot points, twists, and emotional depth of The Housemaid is Watching while maintaining a smooth, engaging flow. Let me know if you'd like any additional details or analysis. Stay curious, stay captivated, because every story has a twist. See you in the next one.